Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we are doing the Benavidez versus Morell breakdown and prediction video. Before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So David Benavidez battles David Morell Jr. in a battle of undefeated light heavyweights, as they will collide on the February 1st, Amazon Prime pay-per-view card in the main event of that card. Big time fight right here. Now, if you haven't seen my breakdown videos before, basically what I do is I break down the whole fight. I talk about the fight itself, what it means overall, and to the fighters. And then after that, I get into each fighter individually and ask the same questions, talk about what they've done coming in, all that stuff. And then at the end of the video, I give my final two things, which, we'll get into. One of them is my prediction. So let's get it rolling. Let's take a look at this fight, see what this fight means for both fighters. First off, I don't believe their respective belts, it doesn't show if their interim title and regular belts are on the line. David Benavidez is the interim WBC champ. He's a former two-time super middleweight champ, and he's battling the regular champ, Morell. And it's there's no right now there's no word on whether those two championships will be on the line, the interim and regular belts. Essentially, they should be, because both of them basically hold an interim title, which makes them the number one contender to the undisputed champion, who right now is Artur Beterbiev. So this fight, what does it mean overall? I mean, it's huge. This is basically, the winner is the front runner to land the winner of the undisputed title rematch between Artur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol that takes place on February 22nd, just 3 weeks after this fight. They will be in line for 2 of the 4 world titles. So the winner will be in line for 2 of the 4 world titles. So this is a big one, and it's a grudge match. These two guys have been dancing around each other for a couple years now. As long as Benavidez has been calling out Canelo, Morell has been calling out Benavidez. So this is a big time showdown right here at light heavyweight between these two guys that are desperate to get into that major mix at 175 for the undisputed title. Benavidez is coming in a slight favorite, and that means that Morell is a slight underdog. So let's get into the fighters now individually. And we start with David Benavidez. He's the favorite, even though they both hold secondary belts. But because we don't know for sure exactly what's going on the line, Benavidez is the A side, so we'll start discussing him. We start first with his last 3 bouts that date back to March of 2023, where Benavidez dominated Caleb Plant in a big-time grudge match to retain the interim super middleweight title in that fight, and really staple his claim to going after Canelo. He returned 8 months later in November of 23 and put his interim title at 168 on the line against undefeated Demetrius Andrade in a big-time fight of 2 guys that were the biggest proponents in arguing that they were being ducked by Canelo. And he would dominate Demetrius Andrade, absolutely dominate him. 6th round TKO victory, and move forward. After that, Benavidez was hoping for a Canelo fight. He had really left no doubt that he had earned the Canelo fight in 2023. I even said coming into 24 that if Canelo did not fight him at all in 24, then he was clearly ducking Benavidez, and he did it. And that was true. But Benavidez made a smart move. He knew there wasn't a lot of fights at 168 for him. So he decided in June on the Tank Davis, he co-headlined a pay-per-view with Tank Davis, and he decided to make a light heavyweight debut, go after the WBC interim belt at light heavyweight, as he would battle former world champion Alexander Votic. He came into that fight and started off strong, was faster than Votic. Votic's amateur experience, his overall skill level. He's a Ukrainian Olympian, very good fighter. He got back into the fight as the fight progressed, but Benavidez outworked him and out hustled him and got a deserving 12-round unanimous decision. Wasn't his finest performance, but it was a good debut to become the WBC interim champ, and then waited around for something else after that, and what ended up happening for him was this opportunity right here with Morell, a fight that a lot of people felt he had been ducking. So for him to take this fight, especially at light heavyweight, this is a big deal. This is Benavidez showing no fear, that he's not mimicking Canelo and not fighting the top guys. And a win for Benavidez, he's hungry. A win here is big for him, and I think he's really motivated. I think he really wants, if it's not going to be Canelo, he wants the winner of Bivol for the undisputed title. And this is putting him in prime, perfect position, because he no doubt will be the biggest name of the top contenders. He will be the second biggest name in the division and be lined up for the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol if he is victorious over David Morrell. So he's definitely hungry, and I think it's a good one right here. So the first thing is, what does he need to do to win this fight over David Morrell? Coming in, he has a slight height and reach advantage. I think he's 1 inch taller. He's 6'2", where Morrell is, I believe, 6'1". But David Morrell has the longer reach with the 78.5 reach to Benavidez's 74-inch reach. So essentially Morrell's got an edge right there. So what he needs to do is he needs to work himself in smartly in this fight. The thing is he hasn't faced a guy that is as young and as highly motivated as him. This guy is 27, where Benavidez is 28. They're both young and hungry, but where I think Benavidez, what he needs to do is work his way in with a hard jab and just try to work the body. I think a consistent body attack for Benavidez in this fight is huge. Obviously, his work rate's going to be high. He needs to be in great shape. But if he can attack the body, I think he has an advantage in 12-round bouts. And I think he can potentially break down and tire out the less experienced David Morrell. So David Morrell's only 11 fights in, and he's won 9 of those 11 fights by knockout. Benavidez has the experience in big fights, and he has the experience in 12-round bouts. And I think he needs to take advantage of that. So if he can do that, if he can use his slight height advantage and work himself in, land big shots, make his presence felt early, I think that could be successful for him. Now, can David Benavidez win this fight by knockout? I think he can. Benavidez has good, solid power. We haven't seen Morrell hit really by anybody that is, as at least on paper, as strong as Benavidez, and definitely not as good. But I see more kind of a wear-down knockout performance if Benavidez were to win it. But I do believe he can win by knockout. Now, can David Benavidez beat Morrell by a decision? I think he can. I think he can outwork him, out-hustle him. Morrell might be a slightly better boxer, but I just think Benavidez's work rate could get him a decision. Now, if Benavidez were to win, what's the more likely scenario? And the truth is I don't know. But I'm going to give a slightly more. I can see him if he wins. I can slightly more see him winning a knockout over a decision here. But it's close. It's like 55-45 area or 51-49. It's not much of a difference. So I can see him winning either way, but it's not much of a difference between whether it be by knockout or a decision. So what does a win mean for David Benavidez here? And a win means a lot. I mean, a win proves his fearlessness, proves that he is not just fighting older dudes. He's not just fighting former champs. He's fighting top young undefeated fighters on the rise that are just as hungry as him. He's willing to fight anybody, and that's what I like about this one, because I guess the only kind of knock you could have against the Demetrius Andrade and Caleb Plant fights were they were a little bit older, former champs that he was bigger than. Well, I mean, Morell is just as big as him. Morell is young, undefeated, just like him, and a knockout guy. So a victory over Morell would be big. It really would. It would really staple him, and will staple him if he can get the win. It puts him on that level, that better be a Bivol level, but as a serious threat to take over and have the torch passed to him. And again, it'll line him up in 2 of the 4 weight classes if the regular and interim belts are on the line between these two. So we'll see. What does a loss mean for Benavidez? A loss could be devastating. It depends on how he loses. I don't think if it's not, the odds state it themselves that they're not going to be surprised if Morell wins because he's a slight underdog. So that means if he wins, it's not going to be a super shock. But if he dominates Benavidez, he's going to take away all that mystique and bravado that we've seen. If he were to beat him by a close decision, tough fight between the two, and it ends close, I think some people are like, well, Morell he's just as good as Benavidez, but Benavidez is still good, and maybe we can see a rematch or something like that. And, it won't hurt him as bad. So we'll see, if he were to lose the fight, how it would affect him. But a loss is definitely going to hurt no matter what, because it's going to still move him further away from the undisputed opportunity potential, or even getting the winner of that fight, Beterbiev and Bivol, in the ring in 2025 potentially. Okay, so let's switch over to the B side, the WBA regular champion, the undefeated David Morell Jr., and break him down. So Morell enters this fight 27 years old. His last 3 fights date back to April of 2023, where he would defend his regular belt at 168 super middleweight and destroy Brazilian Yamaguchi Falcao, destroy him with a first round knockout win. He would return about 8 months later in December of 23 and take on little-known Sina Agbeko and score a second-round TKO victory there to retain his WBA regular belt at super middleweight there as well. Then he waited around and witnessed the, David Benavidez moving up to 175. He realized he wasn't going to get Canelo, and he made a very smart move. He decided to make his debut at light heavyweight, and he got on the major Crawford Madrimov Riyadh season pay-per-view card that was on August 3rd of last year. And he would move up and get an opportunity to challenge for the vacant WBA regular belt at 175 when he would take on veteran former world title challenger Hot Rod Kalajic. And he would struggle in this fight. I mean, it was very similar in the first half of the fight to where Benavidez did against Vocek. He was outworking him. It was a speed advantage, out hustling him. But Kalajic used his ring IQ and his veteran savvy and was able to outwork and land good shots in the second half of the fight. But Benavidez still had his moments as well, and it was a very good action-packed fight. In the second half of the fight, it was just closer, but he won a clean 12-round unanimous decision in a somewhat close fight and became the WBA regular champ. But it wasn't that explosive kind of performance that people thought they were going to get. But then again, he fought a good veteran, so it's kind of one of those, pick your poison. And what I said about Benavidez and I say about Morell moving up to 175, when you move up to 175, or when you move up a weight class at all, that first fight could be the one where you don't look like your true form because you're trying to fill out the weight, get adjusted to the weight. And then depending on who you fought, and with Benavidez fighting a very good older operator in Vocek, and Morell fighting a good older operator in Kalajic, Hot Rod, I mean, I felt like maybe some of their flaws were exposed, but we still haven't seen the best of them potentially. So I don't think there was anything, bad from the Morell performance against Hot Rod Kalajic. So that being said, I do believe he's hungry coming into this fight. This is a fight he's been wanting for a couple years, and now he's got it. It's definitely the biggest fight of his career. And I don't think David Morell is afraid of David Benavidez at all. I was actually surprised a minute ago when I noticed that he has a 4-inch reach advantage. That's significant because he's a good boxer and he's also a southpaw, and that could create some problems for David Morell in this fight. I mean, for David Benavidez in this fight. The fact that they are essentially the same height, Benavidez only has a 1-inch height advantage, not significant very much, but the 4-inch reach advantage for Morell could be very significant. So I think he's hungry. I think he's ready. Now, what does he need to do to win this fight? I think he needs to employ a boxing style. I could see Morell standing back and just boxing David Benavidez, trying to keep him off and maybe catching him with a big shot. I could definitely see that happening. He's got the power, and I think if he stands back and boxes, uses the angles, and doesn't allow Benavidez to cut off the ring, I think he can score an upset here and really put his name forward. So we'll see. But yeah, I think if that's the key, but he also has to come in great shape. He's got to be ready for 12 hard rounds because Benavidez is not a guy to play with. So I really believe a strong, a lot of stamina, and if his plan is to box and break down Benavidez, I think he's good. If he decides to go in there and slug it out with Benavidez, I think that's a mistake. But I really believe if he can box, that could be successful for him. So can David Morell win this fight by knockout? I think he can. David Morell's a hard punching fighter, and I think he hits just as hard, if not harder, than David Benavidez. And I do believe he can score a knockout victory over Benavidez. I do. Can he win a decision? You know what? I think he can, because I think overall as a boxer, I think he's the more talented of the two in terms of pure boxing. He comes from that, Cuban landscape of boxing, which those guys are just supreme operating boxers. They are. And he's a southpaw. So I think he can win a decision. Now, what is more likely for Morell against Benavidez? Is it a knockout or a decision? Honestly, I'm going to lean more towards decision, but I can see him winning by knockout, so it wouldn't surprise me. Now, what does a victory mean for David Morell Jr.? It puts him at the table. He's already considered to be a serious, undefeated contender on the rise that you don't want to mess with, that you don't want to run into. This puts him on the Benavidez level. This makes him a superstar. Benavidez is a superstar right now. He is. He's a star on the rise that people are wanting to see more and more of. Morell is a couple levels lower, but if he can get the win here, he's going to bust out of that shell, and he is going to be a star. And this is the biggest fight of his career, hands down. So victory means everything to David Morell Jr. in this fight. What does a loss mean for Morell? It would depend on how he loses. It really would. Like, that is really significant. If Morell goes out there and gets wasted by Benavidez, it's just going to push him back. It really is going to make him take a major step back. He's young. He definitely can recover. He's only 27 years old. So it's not like he's not going to try to recover. It's just, where do you come back from? Because he's not the bigger name, so he would have to start, over and just come back, and it would just be on that like lower level circuit type deal to work his way back in. But, so a loss would definitely hurt, but it depends on how he loses. If he loses a close fight and really puts, his best foot forward and really shows what he's capable of, that could push him to keep him in the serious mix, even with the defeat. It could make a lot of people fear him even in a loss. So we'll see. So now, the last two things we asked. First is it better for boxing if David Benavidez wins this fight or if David Morell wins this fight? And the honest truth is it's better if Benavidez wins. He's the bigger name. He's been around longer. He's the guy that people seriously consider to be the the guy that Canelo avoided, that he didn't want to fight, it's definitely him. And because of that, it's better for boxing if Benavidez keeps his star on the rise, because especially with the better be of Bivol rematch taking place just 3 weeks later, the winner of this fight will be considered the next guy to fight the winner of that. If there's not a third fight between Beterbiev and Bivol, the winner of this fight will be considered next in line. Because to be honest, say the Beterbiev Bivol rematch is close, which it definitely could and probably will be. I think the winner of this fight is going to be in position to potentially fight for a title that gets vacated. I do not believe if there is a third fight, I don't know if the governing bodies are going to allow all the belts to be on the line in a rubber match. But so that means that if it's the WBA, if it's the WBC, maybe one of those belts becomes vacant, and then this guy's fighting for it, and then the winner of the rubber match could fight the winner of this fight, or maybe the winner of the rematch wins decisively and fights the winner of Benavidez and Morell later in the year. So it's huge, but it's better if it's Benavidez, because he is such a big star right now on the rise, that people know that people would want to see him fight the winner of definitely see him fight the winner of the Beterbiev rematch. So now my final prediction: who's going to win this huge light heavyweight showdown between David Benavidez and David Morell Jr.? And it's a tough one to call. I think it's very close to 50-50. I think the odds show that. The fact that Morell, as I said earlier, is longer by a significant amount, 4 inches, and is the better boxer, I think that gives him an advantage in that area. But in terms of the dog in the fight, the guy that's been 12 rounders, the guy that pushes the pace, the guy that throws a lot of punches and has been in those 12 rounders before, I think David Benavidez is just slightly better. And I think he is going to break down and tire down David Morell in a good action-packed fight. But I can see Morell scoring the upset here. I can see him boxing and Benavidez coming in, Morell catching him with something sharp and hard and hurting Benavidez badly and potentially knocking him out. But it's so intriguing that these guys are essentially the same size in terms of height, same age, both undefeated, both knockout fighters, both entertaining guys that want it. It's a big showdown, guys. It's a showdown that Benavidez has never been in. It's a showdown that Morell's never been in. But I think Benavidez, being around longer, being more experienced in these kind of fights, I think he might just want it a little more and have a little bit more in the gas tank. I really do believe stamina is going to play a big issue in this fight. And for me, because he's been in more fights, more 12-rounders, I think David Benavidez is better built for this fight, and I think he's going to pull off this victory. I think he stops David Morell in the late rounds. I see it 9, 10, 11, and he becomes, the unheralded number 1 ranked contender in the light heavyweight division. Whether he's an interim champ still or a regular champ, he is essentially the top-rated contender that is next in line for the winner of Beterbiev Bivol. So that is it. That is what I got. That is my Benavidez versus Morell breakdown and prediction video, as they will collide in a huge light heavyweight bout and battle of undefeated light heavyweight rivals. That fight takes place Saturday, February 1st on Amazon Prime pay-per-view. You do not want to miss it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.